Hello everyone, let's continue enhancing the search experience. In this video, we will implement the Search as you type feature to address a problem we are currently facing. For example, if I am searching for the Andromeda galaxy and I type just the first characters, the standard tokenizer we used during index creation won't return any results because this term is not a complete token in the inverted index. To resolve this, we will switch to using the Ngram tokenizer, which will allow us to retrieve documents even if the word isn't fully typed. Why use the Ngram tokenizer? Let's break it down with an example. We will compare the standard tokenizer and the Ngram tokenizer using the word Andromeda. During index time, the standard tokenizer treats Andromeda as a single token. However, the Ngram tokenizer splits the word into smaller chunks called grams. For this case, with n set to 9, it generates progressively smaller tokens starting from A and building up to the full word Andromeda. The tokens produced by the Ngram tokenizer mirror how you will type Andromeda while searching. First, you type A, then N, and so on, until you type the complete word. Now let's go to VS Code to see how to implement this change. Open the project and navigate to config.py. We will modify the existing constants by renaming one and adding a new one. Index name default is apod, which means that we will use the standard tokenizer, but the second one will use the Ngram tokenizer. Next, move to index.data.py and import the new constants. Instead of just index name, now we imported index name default and index name Ngram. To toggle between the standard and Ngram tokenizer, we will introduce a new parameter in the index data method. I will call that parameter use Ngram tokenizer, and by default it is set to false, which means that we will be using the standard tokenizer. Now go down and here make sure that you set use Ngram tokenizer to true because we want to see the difference that this tokenizer will make. Now inside index data, I will pass this parameter to both create and insert document methods. So just come here and paste that new parameter like this. Let me close this because we don't have a lot of room to play with. Next, let's modify the create index method. Now we need to provide this parameter when defining the method, and here we will not set the value because we are already passing the parameter to the method. Then remove any existing code inside, and based on the use Ngram tokenizer parameter, we will determine which tokenizer and index name to use. So if use Ngram tokenizer is true, we are going to use the Ngram tokenizer. Otherwise, we are going to stick with the standard tokenizer, and the same thing for the constants. If this is set to true, we will use the Ngram index instead of the default index. Then delete the index if it already exists. Now, when creating the index, we will define custom settings. If we are using the Ngram tokenizer, we will apply the Ngram tokenizer that we defined below. This tokenizer accepts some parameters like minimum gram. It is set to 1, which means that the smallest token will have a size of 1. In the example that we have seen in the slides, we used the Andromeda word, so the smallest gram will be the character A. Max gram is set to 30, which means that the largest token can have up to 30 characters. And finally, token characters. Basically, here we'll filter letters and digits. If you don't want to filter anything, just provide an empty list like this. And basically, based on the value of use Ngram tokenizer, we are going to pass either the standard tokenizer or the Ngram tokenizer. So we will be able to switch this value to compare between the standard tokenizer and the Ngram tokenizer. Now we finished working on the create index method, collapse it, and now let's move to the insert documents method. Let's add the use Ngram tokenizer parameter to the method's definition, and again, based on that value, we will compute the index name. And once we get the index name, we can just replace this old constant. We finished working on the insert documents method. Now I have one last thing that I wanted to change is this. So we no longer have this index name constant, so we need to replace it. And this is simple. Again, just use the use Ngram tokenizer to compute the index name and just give it to the prettyprint method. We are now ready to create a new index using the Ngram tokenizer. Open your terminal. Make sure to navigate to the backend folder. Make sure that use Ngram tokenizer is set to false to reindex the data using the standard tokenizer. And I made sure to update the apod.json file with more documents to play with. And then if you are inside the backend folder, just run python index data. And as you can see, it says that here are the number of documents that we indexed to the apod index. And here make sure that ElasticSearch is running, because if the container is not running, you will not be able to index the data. Now let's change this to true so that we use the Ngram tokenizer while indexing. And as you can see, it says apod Ngram, which means that it worked. Now open main.py. Inside the getting started folder, we need to import the new constants. So the default one and the Ngram one. Now let's locate the search method, and here you can see that we were using the index name method. We were using it here and inside the get documents per count endpoint. If I expand this, you can see that here we have it. So to change them both, just double click on it and click on Ctrl D to select them both. Here I need to click on both of these so that I select just these two. So double click and click on Ctrl D. And now I can change them both at the same time. And by default, I will use the index name Ngram. Now save, and later we will use the default one just to see the difference between the two. Okay, so now we are done. Before I launch the front-end server, I just want to use this extension that I showed you in the previous video. Go to your collections or create a new request. Here I will use the search endpoint, and here this is exactly the example that I showed you in the slides. Now if I click on send, now you can see that it says connection was refused by the server. Why? Because I forgot to run the backend. Now inside backend, just use fast API dev main.py. Now the server is running. Now we can accept requests. If I click on send, you can see that the status is 200. Okay, great. And we get the documents. So here is, you can see that this says the Andromeda galaxy, which is great. If I type Andro and send the request, I still get documents back, and I can keep adding characters until I type the whole word, Andromeda. Awesome, so this worked. Now let's go back to main.py. Again, select this one and the other one, not this. And instead of using index name Ngram, let's use the default one. And let's see if this one will work. So the server will reload automatically. Go to the search endpoint. If I leave the search query as Andromeda, it will work. There is no problem with that. But if I start removing characters, you can see that we get nothing, because during the index phase, the standard tokenizer splits the document by using the whitespace character, and Andromeda as a whole will be a token. So if you type Andromed or Andromi, it will not work, because we don't have this specific token in the inverted index. So you see now the difference between the two? Now let's go to the front end just to see this in action. Again, open the terminal, make sure that you go to the final project, getting started, and front end. You don't need to change anything because I made the changes for you. We just care about the backend. Now inside the front end folder, run npm run serve. The server is running, so make sure to click on this link. Awesome, so we have our beautiful website. Now let's start typing. Okay, so we get something, Andr. Okay, so it didn't work because we forgot to change the index name. So let's go back to the Ngram token, Ngram index. Let's make sure that we have it both. Yeah, so it is set in both endpoints. And now let's retry. Okay, so Andromeda. So we can see that it is working. So just by typing these 4 characters, we are able to find documents related to this specific token. And now I can just start typing and get instantaneous results. And this is exactly what I meant by search as you type functionality. And I think this is something great to add to our website. We arrived at the end of this video. I hope that it was helpful and informative. Before leaving this video, if you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. And don't forget, I will still continue working on the search experience. I think in the next episode, we are going to work on the embeddings. So that will be interesting. So make sure to not miss that video. See you next time.